going to give you an option on publishing your book. And I'll just keep it really simple. Speakers that have books book more business, period. They simply make more money. That's something that I resisted that for a long time, and I kept seeing it again and again and again and again. And then I finally got my book published in a much harder way than Warren and Mike are going to show our friends at the Speakers Resource Center next Tuesday.
Got it. Wow. Yeah, and these guys are awesome. Like you said, Warren's one of the top 10 influencers on the internet, and that's saying something. So and he helped you publish your book. So this will be a great resource for anybody looking to publish your book. But we're just about ready to get started. So why don't we jump into this? And so thanks everyone for jumping on with us today. What we wanted to talk to you about today was how to rewire your subconscious beliefs in 10 minutes. And this comes from the Speakers Resource webinar series that we are launching, and that has kind of come out of the Leadership and Communication Expo that we've been doing here locally in San Diego through Toastmasters. And what we found is that there's tons of people with interesting and valuable content, and we're trying to create we are creating a place for people to come and share that content so they can basically spread their message and help other people who are looking for that niche content. And today we're talking about rewiring your subconscious beliefs. And you know, when I first started getting into personal development, I remember walking into my first personal development seminar, and as I walked into this seminar, I had a cast on my left hand because the weekend before I was diving for a baseball. I caught the baseball, and I wound up breaking my little finger and my ring finger on my left hand, and because I broke the metacarpal bones here because they went back too far, right? And so I wound up getting a cast on my hand because I couldn't swing the bat anymore, and the doctor said if I didn't have surgery, my fingers would be crooked, so I had to have surgery. And my girlfriend at the time, her mother had been bugging me to get into this personal development seminar, and I'd been using baseball as a way to say, no, I'm not interested, I got too much to do. And I finally went into this thing, and it was amazing, life-changing stuff. And one of the things they talked about, and it came from some of this teaching here, was something that Dr. Bruce Lipton talked about, which is Dr. Bruce Lipton is the author of Biology of Belief. He's a cellular biologist. I was in his program live. There was like 10 of us in his program at the time when he was just getting started in seminars. And he says that 80% of your beliefs are actually hardwired in your brain by the time you're 8 years old. And to me, that was like, what do you mean hardwired? I mean, I didn't understand how, the brain's wired, and I didn't even know what hardwired meant. But I did grasp the idea that they were beliefs that are in your brain and that you can't change them. I guess that's what hardwired meant at the time for me. And that means that if they're hardwired in our brain, 80% of everything we know and believe about ourselves and the world, all the way through adulthood, that means that we are mostly being run by these beliefs that we created when we were 8 years old or less. And that was kind of a frightening thought to me because, most of our reactions are are from the reaction of an 8-year-old. And it's funny, I'm watching the Padres play the Rockies the other day on TV, and the Padre pitcher goes and he intentionally throws the ball, fastball, and he hits the third baseman of the Rockies. And this guy throws his bat down, he charges the mound, and the other guy throws his glove at him, and next thing you know, they're in a big fight, and the catcher jumps on him, and then both benches clear, and everybody's arguing and fighting, and then another fight breaks out on the side because these two people were trying to hold each other back, and it looked like a bunch of 8-year-olds on the baseball field. And you can see this everywhere in life, right, where people are reacting in ways that makes them look very childish. And think about when you're driving in a car, for example, somebody cuts you off. Some of the things that come out of your mouth you probably wouldn't say in mixed company. So these reactions aren't just in these types of situations, but they happen all day long throughout our entire life. In fact, 80% of our day is filled with these kind of reactions. And for the most part, they support us in our life, right? They got us to where we are now, but some of them stop us in areas of our life that are very important, like our health, like our relationships, like our career and our finances. And they also create the limiting results that we have right now. So what if we were able to rewire those beliefs? And that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what's exciting, because personal development, I remember hearing about the start of personal development when it started, like with Est and things like that, and John Lennon, Yoko Ono, John Denver, and all these popular stars were going through personal development at the time. And it was like in your face, hardcore, emotional type work, where people were really having to almost relive the situation that built the belief. And by confronting that belief, you were able to break through and achieve a bigger result, or break through that belief and create a new result. And when I went into it in 1997, it had kind of evolved. It wasn't as confrontational, right? And but it was still very impactful, because it was, I was looking at them for the first time. I was looking at those beliefs for the first time, and I had a support team around me, and I did exercises, and I really started to shift my behavior, right? But it wasn't until recently that I realized that personal development wasn't necessarily changing the beliefs in my mind, but it was helping me get really good at working around those beliefs and shifting those beliefs instead of actually changing them. And when I really realized this was through public speaking, right? So when I was public speaking, when I first went up there to give a speech, I remember standing in front of the podium, and I really wanted to be a public speaker at the time, but I was so nervous. I mean, my armpits were sweaty, and my forehead was sweaty, and my hands were shaking, and my mouth was dry, and I had 2 pages of word-for-word speech written that I actually read from the podium to 8 people in the audience, right? And I mean, I can't tell you how nervous I was to such a small audience, but that's what public speaking can do to some people. I know it did it for me. And over time, the nerves kind of subsided, but I still got really nervous before going on stage. And fast forward 18 years later, I'm still really nervous on stage. And we all know what happens when you're really nervous in situations, whether it's on stage or in relationships or in an important meeting or wherever it is, that you don't have the clarity of mind because your nerves kind of block that clarity of thought. And you don't make all the decisions, not all the ideas that come to you the way that you can when you're in the zone, right? When you're in the zone, you're just on it. But when you're not in the zone, you struggle a little. You can struggle a little bit. So I realized recently that, you know what? I got really good at working around my fear of public speaking. In other words, I got really good at getting on stage when I was afraid. But I wasn't really good at getting over that fear, overcoming that fear. Until I started working with the technology that you're going to discover today. And that's when I started to really get excited, because it's like, oh my gosh, I could really overcome these things, so I can actually be in the zone when I'm speaking. And I know Alma knows what I'm talking about, because she's been through this, and she's going to take you through a process here that I think you're going to really be excited about. So let's fast forward through the slides a little bit, because I want to share a few things. So some of the beliefs that can come up as you're doing this work are beliefs like, I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or how about I need to be quiet, I shouldn't step up and use my voice. I think that's what kids hear a lot, and I think that's why public speaking can be one of the biggest challenges that adults have, is because throughout their entire childhood, when most of their beliefs are being developed, they're told to shut up and be quiet and don't speak back and don't talk back and don't speak your mind even when you know you're right, because you're just a kid and you don't know anything. and that creates a belief, and that's taken into adulthood. So when you try and do that as an adult in front of an audience of people, that belief comes up, and the fear of public speaking launches, right? So be quiet, or maybe I'm a burden. I just don't deserve to get what I want. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. And gosh darn it, people don't like me. So these are different beliefs that might come up as you are going, as you're developing, especially from 0 to 8 years old. So today we're going to talk about your beliefs and how to shift them. And when we're done, some of you will want to go deeper. In fact, we're going to offer something very special at the end here that I think you're going to really appreciate. It's a roadmap to how to get more out of what you want, and I'll go into that in a little while here. So, so let's see here. So we bring our beliefs, these beliefs that we create when we're young, into adulthood, and then they start to shape our lives. They shape our relationships. They shape how we behave in relationships. They shape our finances and all our thoughts that we created around money and career and how much we're worth and how much we make and whether we save or whether we spend it all, whether we can't afford it or how can we afford it. All these different things all these different beliefs that we have are shaped in our childhood, and they're brought into our adulthood. And some of these beliefs stop us from getting the results we want. And those are the ones that we really want to start focusing on and shifting as we work with this type of technology, this personal development technology. So it's important to understand a little bit of how we create results before we go into this. So we have a little bit of context around how results are created in our life. This will help us dive into it and find out where it is that we can find the limiting thoughts that we have about ourselves that might be stopping us from creating what we want. And when I went into my first personal development class, this is kind of what I found, and I haven't seen anything else that's a better description of how we create results in life. And what it all starts with is you. They call this the onion, by the way. And if you ever cut an onion in half, this is kind of what you see. But in the middle it represents you, and this is you and your values and your dreams and your beliefs, not your beliefs, your values, your dreams, your desires, everything you want in life. And you may have a great idea, and the first thing that happens is you get a great idea, and you're excited about it for a few minutes until your thoughts come up, right? Your programs, and maybe say something like, oh, well, you've never written a book before, you're not a good writer, or you've never done this before, you've never done that before, that person's too good for you, or you can't apply for this job, or you'll never lose that weight, you've never had a flat stomach, or you've never whatever, right? Whatever the beliefs are. And then from those desires, your thoughts filter that, and it affects your emotions, affects how you feel. You're either excited or you're not excited. You either know you can do it or you don't. And then that triggers you into action or reaction or lack of action. And so that action will create then your results, right? So it starts with you and your desire and what you really want, but then your thoughts get in the way, and then they veer you off on a different path and creating different actions, and then creating your results. So if we can adjust your thoughts, basically fix the filter, then that filter will filter straight through, and the emotions will be more of excitement that spring you into action toward the results you want. And when I saw this, it really kind of gave me clarity of, oh, that means that all I need to do is change my thinking. At the time in '97, Bill Gates was one of the richest men in the world. I think he probably still is. And it's like, well, if I just change my thinking to something more like Bill Gates, I would have Bill Gates results, right? And that's kind of the idea, is that if you can change your thinking more in alignment with your what results you want to create, then you can start to change your results to be more of what you want in your life. So that's how we create results. And so what is happening in the brain to create the subconscious thoughts, right? So if we go back to here, and we're looking at the thoughts area here, so what is happening in the brain that creates those thoughts that we need to work on so we can start to create new actions and then new results. So let's check that out. So if you were to look inside the brain of a newborn baby, you would see billions, trillions of neurons that would be just single points of energy. They're single cells, nerve cells with nerve impulses, and it would look like if each one were a little speck of light, it would look like the star, all the stars in the sky. It would look like looking up into a night sky, except it would have more stars, because there are actually more neurons in your brain than there are stars in the sky that you can see with your naked eye. So if you look at this picture here, it would be actually more than that. And when you look at this picture, if you were to connect a line between the neurons, so let's say these are the neurons here. If you were to connect a line between the neurons, this line would represent the synapse between the neurons that actually forms a thought, right? So if you have a subconscious belief, it actually gets formed through these synapses that are connected from neuron to neuron to neuron, and they form a thought, and that thought is called a neural pathway. And this neural pathway is actually a physical connection inside your brain, and the nerve impulses will travel through these synapses and cause you to have a thought, and that thought springs you into action. And you have hundreds of thousands of these thoughts in your brain right now, hardwired in your brain, and everything, like I said before, everything you know and believe about yourself and the world and the meanings behind everything is hardwired in your brain, and it's hardwired something like this. Okay. So these are nerve impulses, again, 80% of them created before you're 8 years old, and they're directing your life on a regular basis. What we're looking to do is we're going to show you a process that creates a new neural pathway, right? It takes that old neural pathway and it sends it off into a different direction that is a different belief that is more supportive to what you want to create. Now, the old one is still going to be there, but now you'll have a choice. There'll be a fork in the road. Do I take the easy way, the one that's pleasurable and supportive of what I want, or do I take the difficult way, which is the same way I've done it all the other times and is probably more painful? The more you choose the new neural pathway, the less the old neural pathway will be effective. In fact, it will start to fade, and the new neural pathway will be strengthened, and it will become your automatic way of being. Okay. So that's kind of the way this whole process works. Alma, do you have anything that you might want to add to this, or did I get it pretty good?
No, I think you did a really phenomenal job at explaining, once you rewire the belief, it's there. It's a brand new synapses that gets formed, and the old one completely just fades away the less that you use it. You hit it.
Great. So that's kind of where we're going with what we're doing today. And again, the purpose of personal development is to change your beliefs, right? That when you walk into, if you've ever been in a personal development class, you go through this process and you understand through this class that you have limiting beliefs and you have programs and they are stopping you, and you start to see how they're stopping you. And the whole point of it is to help you change the way you think. And as I said before, it not only does it help you get really good at working around them instead of actually changing those beliefs, but often it can take a long time and could take tens of thousands of dollars as you go through these different personal development classes. And I will say that I wouldn't have given them up for the world. I love those classes, and the people I met in those programs were amazing and great friends. But if I could do it faster at the time, if I can go back to 1997 and have a tool that I can do it right away, I can still have those friends, and I can change my beliefs faster and more effectively, and actually shift those beliefs instead of redirecting them or working around them. So what I'd like to do right now is introduce Alma Galvan, and Alma's going to tell you a little bit about herself and what she has done in the past. What led her to doing this type of work, right? And why and how she got here, and then and where this work comes from, and then we're going to go through the process. So Alma, let me turn it over to you and tell us a little bit about what got you here, what started this whole process for you.
Thank you. It's definitely been a phenomenal process, one that I would have never in a million years would have thought that I would be here and have learned what I've learned. It all really started with my boys. I have two boys that were extremely challenged in their early life. They were diagnosed with all kinds of things. One of them did not even speak until he was 6, labeled with all kinds of things. I mean, to the point that there was 2 doctors that advised me to have him be put in an institution and just move on with my life. Now, he's 25 now, so it's really exciting to see doing the work that I was able to be led to has completely transformed not only his life, but by far. I think I see it now, and it transformed my life. Because the things that I was led to, I had to do right along with them. So as they were doing movements, there's no way that they would have been doing those movements by themselves. So the whole time I was doing everything that I wanted them to do, I was doing it. And subsequently, the person that really shifted, they shifted tremendously, but I, not knowing, shifted a lot. And so combining everything that the most valuable parts of what I saw with them and looking at myself, I really realized how valuable the modalities that I was led to really were. And the biggest thing that really has happened is that there's so many beliefs that I have realized that I had, and by doing this work completely, it shifts within minutes, and that it blew me away. And actually, in working with you, Bob, I really have had the awareness of how huge and how incredible and how fast this work really is. And so it just blows my mind every single time to have this tool that any time that I'm faced with something that is challenging, you just do a rewire, and within 5 minutes, it's done. You have a brand new synapses that will support you in whatever it is that you're doing, or shifting completely. So for example, public speaking is one of the biggest fears that we all have. I by far had it as well. And mine started when I was 6 years old. And in just doing a simple rewire, I was able to get past that. So anything, we can actually rewire for anything. So you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a friend call me in October, I think it was October, maybe September of 2017, just recently. And she called me and she goes, "Hey, I got a friend of mine that needs a speaking coach. Can you do it?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Who is she and what's she looking for? What's she want?" She goes, "Well, she really has a hard time with public speaking. In fact, she gets super nervous, and she actually cries when she gets on stage every time. And it's not because she's telling emotional stories, it's because she's so afraid that she breaks into tears." And I go, okay, I can help her with the structure of the speech and help her deliver it, but I got someone that I'll introduce her to that can help her get to the next level on this other part. Well, come to find out, it was way worse than we thought. This person actually, she had violent reactions, like she was throwing up before the speeches, and she'd cry and be super nervous while she was in front, and then she'd take like 2 days to recover. So she had a lot of fear around this. And working with Alma only in 7 sessions, she was able to not only break that fear, but nail her presentation. I did work with her on her speech presentation. Alma worked with her on her rewiring of her beliefs around public speaking and about using her voice and things like that. And she wound up nailing the speech. She said, I can share with you what she said a bit later exactly. It was basically, it went so well that people were asking me to come speak at their events. Somebody asked me to be on their radio show. And before that, I was in this meeting with and this is a woman, right? I was in this meeting with 10 old men, and not only did I step up and speak for speak up for myself, but I put them in their place as well. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so good. So, and Alma, if you don't mind sharing, what were some of the beliefs that you guys worked through with that process?
Yeah, I wanted to share that because you would not necessarily think of going to those beliefs given the fact that she's incredibly successful, incredibly well established. So one of the ones that, and by the way, we find what beliefs are the ones that are limiting us through muscle testing. And so one of the ones that when I asked her, could you just say, I am smart? And she's like, oh, come on. And when I muscle tested, it was like, no. Consciously, of course, she knew she was very smart. But subconsciously, there was something within her subconscious that said otherwise. So that it was definitely being able to trust herself, be able to connect with her intuition, things like that, that you don't necessarily think of when you see somebody so successful.
Yeah, she's an attorney. She works in real estate development. She has a couple of hundred employees working for her, so she's top notch. And she had this major fear that was stopping her in this one area, and we were able to get through it. And now she has these skills that she can use moving forward. So, so that was a wonderful success story. And Alma's worked with over 3,000 people on this type of work, helping children and adults move through different processes and overcome different beliefs that hold them back. You know, maybe at the end here we'll talk a little bit about the amazing results that you have with children as well, and development of their young brains, and how this work has made such a difference in that area as well. So, why don't we go through the process right now, a step-by-step process, Alma, of what is the process? What are I think there's 5 steps, right? What are the 5 steps that get us to a rewire point? And maybe we can go through each one of those.
Sure. So the first thing we have to do is identify what belief is really the one that we want to shift. And the beautiful thing is that then we, once we have that established, then we muscle test to make sure that that's the one. And then once that's then we'll do different movements, so different power moves, and we're going to go through one today. So we'll do power moves. Then we go back and retest the belief. Now, when we muscle test, when we say something that resonates, every single muscle in our body goes strong or locks. And when we say something that doesn't resonate or that is not true to our system, then every single muscle goes weak or doesn't lock. So when I say a statement and it locks, then that means that my subconscious and every single part of me believes that that is a done deal. That is a new belief that I have. So that's basically the system. As long as at the very end we muscle test the belief and it locks, then we're done. It literally is incredibly simple. Sometimes it's not easy to get to the root of the emotion, but it's a fairly simple process, and there are hundreds of ways of rewiring with different power moves. So it just depends on what we want to use.
Are you there?
I am.
Okay. Okay, good. Your audio went out. So there's one piece that you missed in here that I wanted to make sure that we covered. So the first part is we identify what the where the limiting belief is, right? Sometimes we think it's one thing and it's not. And so that's why we do muscle testing. And muscle testing is a super important part, so you know you are getting to the root. Like, you can bypass the muscle testing part of it, but if you do, then you may be rewiring something that either isn't appropriate or is already in place, right? So that's one thing. The second thing you do after you identify it, like Alma said, is so you identify it, and then you muscle test to verify that that's correct. And then you go through step 3, which is you set a goal or an intention, right? What is the new belief you want to have? Because in order to create a new belief, you need to know what that new belief is, right? So, so you set that goal or intention, you write it down, and then you do some power moves, some simple movements that are scientifically proven to open up your brain into a super learning mode, and so it is receptive to this new type of to this new belief that you're trying to rewire. And then once you're done with that process, then you muscle test to confirm that it is in there. And so we're going to take you through one of these right now. Alma's going to take you through one. And before we do that, Alma, just so we can see a little better, is there a light available? There you go.
Let there be light.
This will help. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. So, so I'm going to have Alma take you through, and just so you don't have to think about it, I'll talk about the steps. I'll go step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you tell us about each step. And we're going to do one specific one. We talked about doing a specific one, something that was common to everyone, and that we thought everyone could benefit from, and everyone has an issue with. And the which one did we talk about? Do you remember, Alma?
Yes. So we think we want to do the one that talks about being able to value ourselves and being able to take care of ourselves. So it's actually, we're doing 2 rewires in one. So we're like a
2 rewires in one.
Yeah.
There you go. So
There's
today's
so many times that we really don't value. We think we do value ourselves. So at least we're going to get to the root of making sure that we do have a belief that allows us to really value ourselves, and then also support us in being able to take care of ourselves, physically and mentally, and being able to, find things that really work with us without feeling guilty of taking on new things that are going to help us.
Right, and sometimes we don't value ourselves like we don't consider ourselves valuable or worth it. We undervalue who we are. We undervalue our own knowledge, our own experience, our own worth. And so we thought that the rewire today would be I am worthy. I am worthy. We thought that can be something that can be more valuable if everybody felt and understood how worthy they actually are. So today we're going to rewire for I am worthy. And one thing I want you to keep in mind as you do this with us, because we're going to want you to do this with us, is keep in mind that when you're doing personal development programs, and if you've done them before, you know that there's this rush that you get from the aha moment, right? When you discover that, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I did that. It seems like the whole world opens up for you because now you know that you can actually get past this problem. But really nothing changes except that you're aware that change could happen. But no change really happens except you're aware that change could happen. In this process, we are actually creating the change, but you don't have this huge rush of aha moment. You go through this process. When you're done, you're done. It's a very peaceful process, and when you're finished, it's like, okay. There's no bells or whistles that go off. Where you notice it is in the next day when you're faced with a situation where you may have normally undervalued yourself. You're going to notice that you step up automatically and put a little more value on yourself. And then as the days go by, you're going to notice. So we're going to, at the end here, we're going to remind you that we want you to start taking notes of different situations that you've discovered that you're doing automatically that you didn't used to do. And that's where the value is. So after the week has gone by, you're going to go, holy cow, there's been some significant changes here. Is there anything to add to that?
About the only thing that I'd like to just, this process is one that you're like, how is that possible that in 5 minutes or less than that, this can actually happen? And that is because we're going to put the brain into a mode that is called the synchronization mode, which is taking the left and the right side of the brain, and then synchronizing it through movement. And when you synchronize this, then it turns on something that's called super learning. You alluded a little bit to that, but I wanted to just make sure that everything is clear in that sense. That is why when super learning gets turned on, that's why this is a process that literally just takes minutes for then the brain to create a brand new synapses, which in fact, the super learning was on before the age of 8. That's why kids learn so fast. And so it's so beautiful to tap into that ability, but now consciously and doing a brand new belief.
Yeah, yeah, and that super learning mode that kids were in at age 8 was it's called theta, right? It's brain waves are alpha, beta, theta, and delta. Delta is sleep, and alpha is actually when you're in the zone, when things are just flowing and you are on the top of your game. You're in alpha mode. But theta mode is when you are open to suggestions, right? You're hypnotized, or it's just before you fall asleep, or it's just as you're waking up. That's when you're in theta. In fact, if you ever listen to the self-hypnosis tapes, they always tell you to listen to them just before you go to bed because you fall asleep to them, and that's when your mind is open into theta mode, so you can receive those suggestions that are in the hypnosis tapes. So you're not really being hypnotized by them; you're just taking in the suggestions because you're in that theta state for a brief period of time during those tapes. So, so we're going to go into super learning, and that's super exciting. So, shall we start?
Yes, let's do. So, we can't see anybody, but if you guys could just write down your goal, and it's I am worthy. So just go ahead and write it down. And then what we're going to do is, even though some of you guys might know muscle testing, some of you guys might not, I'm still going to invite you to attempt it with us. So muscle testing literally is just a form of communication with our energy system. And we're going to make a circle like this, and we're going to try to break that circle. So everybody just say your name, like for example, my name is Alma, and try to break the circle. If it's something that resonates, and again, if it's true, and it is for me, then it's really strong. I don't have to like hold it really, really tight. You just kind of like feel, and it locks. And if I say my name is Bob, it automatically just releases.
My name is Bob.
But go ahead and say my name is Karen. I don't know. Try it for you so you can.
Now, yeah, and in a program that Alma offers, there are different ways of muscle testing, and there are different ways of other processes that you can also use to confirm. So to me, I consider this one a more advanced one, but it's one you can do by yourself, right? And so as you get good at muscle testing, you'll be able to really get good at this. And there's another one that she does where she tries to open the fingers. But the idea isn't like, okay, I'm going to make this super hard and I'm going to try and open it. The idea is you notice when your body is weaker because you've said a statement, right? Because your body goes weak when something's not true. So if you tell a lie, your body's going to go weak. But also, if you say something that you know is not true, subconsciously you know is not true, like I am worthy, and you don't feel worthy, your body's going to go weak to that. And that's when the muscle testing will confirm that is weak, and that is something that you're going to want to change. So you're right on the money with identifying that.
And the way we look at this too, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't say that you really like it's the worthy. It doesn't say anything about it other than somewhere along the lines you got a subconscious belief that says you're unworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've kind of, let's go ahead and just say the statement, say our goal, say I am worthy. And then if it, I've done this one before, so it locks for me. But if it doesn't for you, that's just giving us good information that that it's a really good rewire to do. Regardless
Mhm.
if this locks or unlocks, let's just go to the next step and start the process. So now that we've established that that is everybody's goal for this webinar, I am worthy, we're going to do some power moves. The very first one that I'd like everybody to do is we're going to do something that's called thinking caps. And thinking caps is we're going to go into, we're going to go to the outer part of our ear and we're going to start pinching and uncurling all the way along the outer part of our ear. So just there. Can't see. There. So, oh
Yeah,
yeah, you
I
can
got
kind
bigger
of,
ears.
there
Maybe
you
it's easier
go.
for me.
You're just going to go all the way down. What this is doing, it might seem super simple, but it's actually acupressure points that are releasing a huge amount of energy and bringing energy to different parts of the spine and different parts of organs. And we're going to only do this 3 times. So go back up again and do it 3 times.
So you just pinch and uncurl, right?
Yeah, just 3 times. You should actually feel like your ears are almost like on fire because so much energy was
Yeah, I
brought
know.
up. And not only is that a power move that's really effective for rewiring, but it's also it amplifies the way we take in information, and uh, so many more benefits to that. But for the next thing, we're just going to move on for this rewire, and I'm going to have everybody cross your arms and feel which hand feels better, if it's like this or if it's like this. Which one has just a better feel to it? And then you're going to cross the ankles at the bottom. So you're going to cross your ankles and feel which foot on top, or which, is it the left one on top or is it the right on top? Okay. For me, it's the right on top, and interestingly, the left on top for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be the same for the same hand and the same foot. It doesn't really matter. We're in a goal space right now, and in this position, this is one a very, very, very powerful position and movement, because this is literally bringing into that synchronization mode that we talked about. So we're going to put the tongue to the roof of our mouth, and we're going to take about 5 deep, deep breaths. And every single time that you take a deep breath, you're going to say, you can say it out loud or you can say it in your mind, I am worthy. So everybody go ahead and just take deep breaths. I'm going to say it out loud, but you guys can, like I said, you have the choice of whatever you want to do. I am worthy. I am worthy. And when you're breathing, really try to make sure that you're breathing not just with your chest, that you're breathing from like your diaphragm, and your stomach is going as big as it possibly can to really make that diaphragm work. I am worthy. Let's do 2 more. I am worthy. Fantastic. Now you're going to actually do 1 more, and this is called a save button. And in this position, what you were really doing is we're taking in the left and the right and bringing it in together. Now that we had the brain go into synchronization mode and start that rewire process, actually that's a huge amount of it. Now we're just going to save it. And there's so much energy at our fingertips. So bringing this together at this particular time in a goal space is incredibly powerful. So everybody go ahead and take 3 breaths here, and we're going to just say, I am worthy 3 more times with breath. I am worthy. I am worthy. I'm worthy. Fantastic. So now everybody go ahead and say your goal out loud. I am worthy.
I am worthy.
And muscle test for it. So if it locked, then that is a sure thing that there is a brand new rewire, brand new synapses done. If it didn't lock, you're going to go back and do one or two of the movements that we just did and just keep repeating until it locks. Till date, I've never had a rewire not lock. Sometimes it takes several times for it to really solidify, but it will absolutely work. And at this point, really, if it locked, you don't have to do a single thing. We recommend, though, that you celebrate it. So it really turns into a celebration statement. And so we recommend that you put them on little sticky notes and write them maybe five little sticky notes and place them in different places. Like when you're brushing your teeth, or when you're going to go get something through the refrigerator, or in your car, just to remind you that you have this brand new synapses. And by the way, they've actually even did research that showed they connected people to our latest technology, where it showed through this process how a brand new synapses was formed. So if you did this process, for sure, there's a brand new synapses within your brain that now allows that subconscious belief to know that you are worthy. There's a brand new synapses for that. How exciting.
Yeah, that's very cool. And what's interesting to note here is that these are super simple movements, and it would be easy to be skeptical about this stuff, and you should be skeptical about it. But also go out there and test it for yourself. And but as you're out there testing it, notice the shifts that occur. Now, if the if you feel like you need more, you can do a couple more movements that will help. Now, maybe we should take a couple minutes to talk about a couple more movements, just to give people a taste of what some other movements might be and how simple they are.
Sure.
What do you think, Alma?
Sure, we could do that.
Okay.
One of the ones that I particularly like, I know they're very simple, but for me, and being a woman, women, okay, we're emotional. It's one that's called a diffuser, or a that's one of my favorite words anyway. It diffuses things. So we're going to put our two middle fingers between our hairline and our eyebrows and right above our eyes. We're just going to hold it. We're not going to massage it. We're not going to, and then the rest of the fingers can go wherever you want to, just let them drop. This is also called positive point. This is the end of the stomach meridian. And just by holding this point, it allows any emotion that we have to disconnect from our cortex. So it brings us into our cortex, where we want to be when we have a stressful situation, when we have to talk to our spouse about something, sensitive, when we have to go in and talk to our boss. If you just hold these points for 30 seconds, a minute, sometimes maybe it might take it 2 minutes depending on what's going on, but it literally will separate that emotion, because when we're stressed, where do we feel it? Our stomach. So it's really a powerful movement to separate that emotion, get back into the cortex, where then we can actually find solutions and be more productive in what we really want to accomplish.
Okay, and so in this position, you would restate your goal again.
Yes.
I am worthy, and hold it for like 30 seconds to a minute.
Hold it, and when you're in that goal space, you could just think about, just allow thoughts to come in, even allowing yourself to go into thoughts that you might have not, situations where you might have not thought that you were worthy. Don't do anything to them. Just observe them, and they will absolutely dissipate.
Wow, that's good stuff. So, so that is the final piece, and then you muscle test to confirm that it's there, and that's the 5th step of 5 steps. And once you're done with that, then what we recommend you do is write them down on like yellow stickies, and you mentioned this, right? Put them up on your bedroom mirror, on your bathroom mirror, maybe on your car rearview mirror, uh, every place that you might often frequent, maybe on your refrigerator, and as reminders that this is in place. Now, these are not affirmations. These are celebrations. These are reminders that you've done this. And what it helps you do is it helps you recognize the shifts that you're making throughout the day. And that's where the excitement really happens, is when you start to see the automatic shifts that you take. Now, from doing this work, I went from being nervous on stage to the point where I could give a speech and I could do okay because I had developed skills, but I still got really nervous. So me trying to improvise and be in the zone on the stage was hard to do. And improv helped a lot with that, but this really helped me break through, especially on powerful presentations. So what you'll see is you'll start to see subtle shifts happen. And remember, it's all those little decisions and little shifts throughout the day, or little decisions throughout the day that stop you from getting what you want. So it's going to take a bunch of little decisions throughout the day that help shift that and get you to where you want to go. So this is this I think you'll find to be a pretty big deal. So so Alma, you've been working with this for quite some time now. What would you say? Uh, well, you do the rewires. There's another process that you work with, and you work with Danny Alamoto as well on this. And I know Danny's on the webinar, and I'm going to try and chime her in. But can you talk about how the brain development part of it works? And I'm going to, while you're talking, I'm going to try and get Danny in on this presentation.
One of the things that I found is that with my kids, there were certain parts of their brain in the very early stages of their brain that were not developed at a certain point, or enough. These centers of the brain, that's called the pons, the midbrain, these centers of the brain needed to be developed before we got upright. And for sure, for my kids, they were massively not. So in doing, it's actually called neurological reorganization, which is really going back and rewiring the brain so that it allows the pons to be developed, the midbrain to be developed, and then we really work on the other sensory systems that people don't really understand, which is the vestibular and the proprioceptive system. So these, the early centers of the brain give us functions. So when we don't have certain functions, then, for example, there's in the pons, there's a function that is the fight or flight. And if I'm not developed enough in the pons, then my brain perceives so many things to be threatening. And if it perceives them to be threatening, then I'm constantly in a fight or flight mode. So by far what I find is that people that do brain work and then do rewires by far have the biggest shifts, and in such a short time. It's unbelievable. And it took me longer to figure it out because I didn't really think I needed anything, because I was just helping my kids. But when I look back, and I love 2020 vision, right? When you look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm by far nothing of what I really was as I was able to be a better mom, a better spouse, just a better person all along, because I was more in control and had so many more tools.
Wow. And so you were working with your kids, and that helped you discover how effective it is with adults as well, right?
Oh God, yes, because there's so many things like, being able to see the big picture, being able to be more organized. For sure, organization was not my strength. So, and so many other things. So when I started seeing the shifts that I had done, it just blew me away. And so now we actually really love working with. For the longest time, I would only be working with adults. With kids. Now we work with everybody because everybody
Wow.
can change.
Wow.
Actually, our oldest participant is is 72. Our youngest is 2. So,
Ooh,
2.
wow. Yeah, and I've seen some of the amazing results. What really happens with this stuff is that you are putting your brain into this mode that it's not used to being in because you've been so dominant your whole life on your right side or your left side in your in your logic or your creativity, and the other side seems to suffer. And when you sync the brain up so you are equally as, they're both working at their optimum, and you're using these simple techniques to get yourself into this zone, it's like the whole world changes, and it's so simple. And I kind of wonder why haven't people been doing this? Like the thinking caps, you do thinking caps, and another process you call pace, and before you go on stage, and it really gives you the advantage that you need to be really in the zone and be the best you can be in different situations. So this is really, really good stuff.
It is mind-boggling because these simple movements really allow us to get into whole brain integration. And with
Right,
whole brain integration, then we really are literally our best.
right, right. Got it. Okay. Well, I was going to get Danny on, but it didn't look like it worked out on this video. So I won't bring her on. But Danny is the expert in the brain development area, and she has had some amazing stuff. In fact, Danny was working with her own company called Brain Builders, and she had awesome results. And then her and Alma teamed up, and it was like everything just got 10 times better working together, and it was already amazing. So this is amazing, life-changing stuff. We've seen it with case by case by case, where people are actually shifting their results and getting the kind of results that they had wanted for a long time. They weren't sure what was holding them back, and sometimes it was limiting belief, and sometimes it was their brain just wasn't developed where it should be. Not to any fault of their own, but they discovered that they were always going into fight or flight for some reason. They were being triggered into a anger reaction or something like that, and through brain development work, they were able to get out of that process and be more conscious during the day in different situations. So it's really amazing work. What we wanted to do in this presentation was, first of all, give you this valuable content. We thought if you can see what this is like, and over the next week, you're going to get a really good taste of what this is like. This is just one rewire that we're doing here, but can you imagine, doing one a week and having 52 of these things under your belt when you're done? So at the end of the year, you're just like almost an entirely different person with major shifts in all areas of your life, especially health, wealth, and relationships, which are the big 3 areas that most people have. So what we wanted to do is offer to you something very special. And what we've been doing with people that we found is been an awesome way to give them a real solid taste, custom taste of this work, is to do what we call a roadmap to results. And basically what we do is we sit down with you and start to identify where your specific limiting beliefs are. We spend a good 30 to 45 minutes just working with you, going through a questionnaire, determining where your brain could use further development, and in your pons and your midbrain, but also where are you being stopped specifically in your health and in your wealth and career and finances, and in your relationships, your business relationships, your personal relationships, and your engagement with people. Where are those areas that you're being stopped, and how can we improve? Where are the beliefs that might be underlying those that are stopping you? And so at the end of that process, we take all the information, all the answers that you give us based on our questionnaire and our process, and then we have a second meeting, and then Alma and or Danny will jump on the line, and then we'll go over the results, and we'll talk to you about, okay, so this is where you say your beliefs are, this is where your brain development might be having a play in that, and this is where the rewires might occur in order for you to make those shifts that you want to create in your life. So it's a roadmap to results, and we'd like to offer it for any of you that are watching this that would like to take advantage of that. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just send me a quick email, and I will sign you up for it. I'll reply back, and we will schedule you for this process. You can email me at my personal email, bob@bobdietrich.net, N-E-T. Okay, so Bob at Bob Dietrich, that's spelled Diet Rich, DIETRICH.net. If you send me an email, I will get you on the schedule. I'll reply back. We'll set up a schedule time, and we'll start that process, and you'll get your own custom rewire so you can see where you can go with this process and how it can start to make shifts in your life in any area that you want. Usually it's a belief that's holding you back, and you can definitely shift those beliefs, even if you've been struggling with them for years, by doing this process. I know because I have definitely done it. I know Alma's done it because she's had amazing results. She does this every day, and it's like every day I call her and I'm beat, and she's like, oh my God, I just had the most amazing day after 10 hours of working. So, so yeah, I invite you to send me a quick email. I will set you up for that roadmap, and we will kind of go from there. All right, anything else you want to add, Alma?
No, it's just so wonderful to be able to share more of this. One of the things that just being a mom and just being a person that wanted to get better at being able to help definitely my kids and then subsequently myself, by far, I love being able to empower people to help themselves. And ultimately, that's really the biggest thing that drives me. That, you know, for the longest time with my practice, people would come to me for a long time. Now it's like, no, with this process, we empower people to help and do and become the best version that they want to become, that they can.
Right. And I will say, don't let the simplicity of this process fool you. You can be skeptical all you want. We invite you to be skeptical, but be skeptical and try it. Don't be skeptical and be one of those people that are just skeptical, because those people are just buzzkills. And they don't get the results they want. Be skeptical and try it. This process does not require you to believe in it to work. That's kind of an irony in this process. It does not require you to believe in it to work. You just need to do it and then watch the results. Right? But make sure you follow the instructions, and make sure you write down "I am worthy" at least 5 places. Put them up in different areas where you'll see them every day. And by this time next week, by next Sunday or Monday, next Monday night, you should have a journal. Because at the end of every day, what we would ask you also to do is journal about different results that you've seen shift around your worthiness. Okay, or around, and that'll take you 5 minutes to do. Just close your eyes, think about your day, and where you have valued yourself, maybe taking a different action. And I guarantee you're going to see some awesome results from that. Okay? And then send me an email. We'll get you on the roadmap to results, and we'll go from there. All right. Well, thank you, Alma. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing that valuable information. Amazing stuff. Tell Danny we said thank you for her helping us as well. And Thomas, are you still there?
I am.
Thank you for coming on and hosting this this webinar today, and encouraging us to bring Alma on to share this with the speakers resource. It was a valuable piece of information. I'm glad we did that. Alrighty. Well, thanks again, guys, and remember, let's see, it is April 24th. We will have Warren Whitlock to talk about your book and how to publish your book. If you want to get more speaking gigs and you want to get paid to speak, you better have a book. And Warren Whitlock is going to talk about how to make that happen. So make sure you're on that April 24th, and you can go to the Speakers Resource Center Facebook page or speakersresourcecenter.com and get more information on that. So we'll see you guys then.
Thank you.